I'm coming from the Technical University of Berlin, and I've prepared a lecture which is not yet shown. It's addressing sustainable manufacturing, shaping global value creation. And to some extent, this is very similar to the EPSRC, is it correct? EPSRC? This type of approach, because we are coming from a background of manufacturing, and I like to address this in a 30 minutes run through. Originally, I planned for a little bit longer lecture, but as being late, I go for 30 minutes now, and sometimes I jump some of the slides. The Production Technology Center in Berlin is in the British sector of Berlin. Now, after the reunification, it's all German again. We are Fraunhofer and a university institute from the Technical University of Berlin. And our architecture is, this is the middle of our life factory, and we're sitting around and looking in all directions on all the aspects of manufacturing. And from outside, we try to work together with partners from all over the world, industry, research, and also public institutions. Now, let me shortly address my issues. I'd like to say a few words on the challenges. I'm going to shorten that. Then the general approaches to cope with these challenges. And then I'm going to describe to you this collaborative research center of the German National Science Foundation, counting for about 21 projects, 1 PhD student each, and about 2 million euros per year. And I'm stressing the leverage of education. Somebody said that in the end, it's the consumers who decide. Now, the consumers are those whom we are educating. And eventually, from that point of view, the issue of sustainability should address people who are finally pulling for sustainability. And then I'm going to make some examples on modern technology connected with leverage education. And finally, I'm going to finish with Muslims and Christians and Hamburg merchants. Imbalance of economy, ecology, and social issues. And this is a general challenge where a lot of questions can be derived from. I must not go into details in that. Every American has 20,000 pieces of equipment. Every German has 12,000 pieces of equipment. And if everyone on globe would go on with this material property that he might have, globe couldn't stand. And eventually, we must cope the challenge that one globe, not 1.5 globe, is sufficient to provide the material to set up such an enormous amount of goods, of pieces of useful equipment. If we think of the social challenge, we have such a type of model: population increase, population growth by increasing standard of living can be stopped, but higher living standard conflict with ecological limits. So higher living standards are only sustainable when the per capita resources of consumption decrease. So an increase in the use productivity will allow for the desired increase of living standards within the planet's ecological limits. This is a qualitative slide that we started with already at the end of the 90s when we started dealing with these general issues. And to look at in a qualitative way from another point of view, we have emerging countries and we have early industrialist countries. Now, if we speak of acceptable standards of living, material standards of living, then we here in Britain, in Europe, in the US, in Japan, we are all somewhere here. Whereas the others are somewhere here. And what does this mean? This is the limit in acceptable standard of living. This is the responsible consumption of resources. And in a global and economical system, we must all come down here to an acceptable living standard with responsible consumption of resources. And this is the path which eventually might be gone, because everyone looks at how are they living and they want to go that way. And this is not affordable. All right, here we have some calculations on this. You might know all these type of things. This is what globe could stand, and this is how we are going, globally speaking. And this is too much, and this is the general challenge. Now, the social challenge, if we look at the Lorenz curve, if everyone would have as much as, if everyone would have the same amount of wealth, from the poorest to the richest, there is no differentiation. This was the old ideal of communism. It would look like that. If we have another case, it would mean that very few have very much, and some people don't have everything. So, and this is the nice approach. Everyone can read, everyone can write, everyone has something to live, everyone has a certain amount of wealth, and some live better. And there is serious calculations in economy about these integration. If this is 100%, this is somewhere between 50 and 60%, and this is what is less than 20%. And here you look at these equity factors all over the world, and here we realize that Austria is on top with 65 of equity, 65%. Europe, not so bad. There are somewhat better. The Japanese are not so bad. US on the same level as India. I wonder that India is in here. So this is a measurement of the distribution of wealth among people of a community. And this is, to me, the social challenge, to cope with that. Now, we have saturated market of less than 1 billion people. 500 million European, 300 million Americans, 100 million Japanese, 120 million, 60 million Koreans, less than 1 billion. And there are 6 billion others who are looking and dreaming of the material wealth of that. And the challenge is to narrow this gap in the long term. This is all general considerations. How can we narrow the gap? By enabling large-scale increases in teaching and learning productivity. Learning and teaching must not be limited to chief executives and leading people in our countries, but must also address the consumers all over the world. And there are wonderful means to cope with this challenge that we get by modern information and communication technology. Increasing the teaching and learning productivity in a bottom-up type of approach can be realized by a lot of educational institutions, by schools. Here, my function as a teacher at the university is something which motivates me very much, because the leverage of education is of considerable significance to get the whole thing running. In short term, in examples, and in the long term, the only way. I have another slide which I did not integrate here, which is showing the other way around when the G7, G20 are meeting and try to get to some results. You know, the Rio conference, the Copenhagen conference. If there is not a bottom-up reaction on the eventual chances coming from above, then we will be in trouble. Now, what are general approaches to cope with these just sketched challenges of sustainability? Let me think a little bit of the philosophical background. Perhaps you might have heard of Kant. Kant was a German philosopher in the 18th century, and Jonas is a contemporary who makes connections to them. And Kant's issue was, act so that the effects of your actions are compatible with the permanence of genuine human life. A very long moral obligation or moral mode. Then there are other moral issues. Adam Smith, the thesis of the invisible hand of the market. Public welfare is promoted through the economic competition of individual interests. We all know that there is somewhat truth in that, but it's limited, and that we need something more. And what is the direction which we must get attitude-wise? Our goal must be a sustainable development of technology and areas of living with guidance from market dynamics. Market dynamics is helpful. Market is the process of finding out things, as Schumpeter has described it, with imagination, creativity, and organizational competence from responsible global citizens. I think it is important that we are aware of these global citizenship. Every place on earth can be reached in less than one day. Every communications can be started immediately with people, and we are all dependent from that resources of our globe. So from that perspective, it is important to make aware of this philosophical background, the awareness for decision-making in manufacturing. This was what our friend Rahimi Fad just addressed before the break. I think this is an element of this, and it is broader than just technology or just economy. All right, so from that point of view, we put a philosophy, a scheme on our activities in our technological-driven manufacturing institute. The dynamics of global competition and cooperation shall be utilized for lending wings to processes of innovation and mediation towards the reasonably demanded sustainability on our globe. Very high level, but I think it is important to combine the breadth of relevant issue with the in-depth development of technology. And one business model, I know that I'm here in an area where business models for sustainable manufacturing are of highest importance. We, from the engineering point, we made this slide, I think, 15 years ago. Selling functionality is profitable if the idle capacity costs of sold tangible products are much higher than the costs for adaptation, information management, and logistics, needed specification, functionality, and provision when, as long as, and where functionality is needed. And then we can achieve useful functionality, and the truth is that there is an enormous amount of business cases where this is true. It's a simple calculation model. There's a lot of other issues to be dealt with if we speak of business models, but this is a simple truth. When I go to our institute in the morning with my car, it takes me 10 minutes. At night, 10 minutes back. Lousy utilization of 20% of 20 minutes per 24 hours. Now, if I take my iPhone, which is taken away now, I could have immediate access on mobility functionality. And there's a lot of business models which could be derived from that. And in the meantime, it has come to reality. The smart car from Daimler-Benz was once directed in this idea. It was not a business success, but now call a bike, call a car. All the car manufacturers are going in this direction. Another elements of business, if we look at the product life cycle from product development, production, distribution, use, reprocessing, eventual disposal, hopefully not, and then we are going the other way around, the cycle economy, and we are selling the functionality on the cycle of products. So this is an enormous amount of business opportunities in logistics, service engineering, pool management. You see the slides here. I think there is chance for letting these things run. So now let me have a look at our specific developments within this framework, which I just tried to describe. We call it sustainable manufacturing shaping global value creation. The value issue as such is of highest relevance. Value is not only price and costs. And in our Academy of Manufacturing Engineering, Global Academy, we had a lecture of a Japanese colleague, Professor Ueda. He stressed the idea of axiology, saying that value has a lot of other elements. There is religious values, ethical values, aesthetical values, and there's a long history of values in the philosophy that might be interesting as a guidance also of how to develop products and how to set up processes. So in that sense, we try to address this value creation. And then the other thing is that we think of the breadth of relevant issues, which for engineers sometimes is very difficult, because as engineers we like to have a clearly limited system, and then we go, and then the system runs. But here we have to address vague issues like social, economic, environmental questions, and then we have to address this to product in the sense of designing the product, processes, the way how to perform the value creation, equipment, the tools to do it, the organizational issues, and last not least, the humans to get on this. And this is our big challenge, combining the breadth of systemic reference with the depth of production technology to enable for sustainable value creation. This is a real challenge, and now this is an area which I'm not too much addressing. Here we are thinking of scenario technology in this framework and have set up for the Berlin area the approach of guiding bicycles and setting up rent-a bike issues, all these type of activity. Bicycle is not only relevant from this point of view. Bicycle is an element where a student can very much train different technologies and also get immediate success feeling about the functionality, because it's something that everyone can understand and where a lot of technological issues can be dealt with. So scenario is a wide area of looking in the future. Let me address another exemplary case, that is welding production. You know that welding is of enormous significance in a lot of different manufacturing activities. So therefore, we looked as welding for exemplary sustainability evaluation. I cannot go into the deep issues here, but the issue of welding has a lot of features that have to be taken into account, also addressing the different types of welding, gas metal art welding, hybrid welding, laser welding, and we have are lucky that there is a lot of connections with automotive industry, but also with tube welding in the Baltic Sea. Our colleague Redmeier, who is dealing with that, so he could in depth with practical relevance analyze welding production. And now I cannot go into the details here. You have access to that if it is of interest later on. And here we have the results of the sustainability of welding production, addressing the different types of welding, and from that contributing to the awareness for decision making in manufacturing according to criteria of sustainability. And this is exactly what we are doing also in other areas, assembly and machining. So here's another a very far-rising development. We want to set up a Lego machine tool. A Lego machine tool, our idea is help for self-help as an essential element of manufacturing. And so the idea is that we can set up the machine tool on our own, with every part not weighing more than 20 kilos, so that it can be manually handled. And here you have an idea of how it might look like. We put kernel elements, then we integrate microsystem technology, embedded systems. We have the idea of our colleagues. This was addressed in the connection of Industry 4.0 before the break. So we try to connect electronic components, sensorial devices, processing devices, and actuating devices in kernel elements of machine tool, and set up a type of machine tool. Here you see how we measure with microsystem technology and also with machine tool modeling the behavior of certain geometric structures, and we are thinking that we will get a first prototype of a modular machine tool with standardized structures in the next 2 years, and first prototypes are already available. So here we go in depth for designing of high-tech machine tools, coping with the challenge of sustainability, also thinking of applying this in emerging countries. Another element is the idea of the continuum between manual labor and automation. And there are weaknesses and strengths, And due to modern IT connected with modern equipment, we can find new synergies between manual operation and automated operation. Image the human-centered automation. And here are examples for that. Manipulators helping heavyweight movement, automated assembly addressing the movements of a worker. This can be transferred to another factory, might be in Malaysia or from Germany to Malaysia, wherever. Brazil is also a big partner in this, University of Sao Paulo. And here is another example of this. This is that we go in health technology, and the health, if you have broken your arm, then there is a therapy to dealing with this. And now we think of kinematics helping this monotonous movements to be carried out by such type of equipment. We speak of Learnstruments, and this is again a general phrase, objects which automatically demonstrate their functionality to the learner. They consist of aspects of cognitive stimulation and emotional association with new and existing ICT and design approaches for productive mediation. So this is the point where we say help for self-help. If there is a problem in Sudan, not throw just bread and dry milk and some blankets, but throw down equipment and take a social military engineering approach to help them deal with it. So this is equipment directed in that way. Afghanistan is an idea. I know about the problems, but only to give you the direction in which we think in dealing with such type of approach. And here the practical application in assembly work. This is in fact a lot of parts that we did. We did a lot of demanufacturing here in such type of equipment. And now in Ho Chi Minh City, we are setting up a new university, and there we are trying to do the assembly of bicycles and also the remanufacturing with such type of equipment in close cooperation from students from Vietnam and students from Berlin. Here you see this fundamental type of assembly equipment with the different elements of a bicycle which could be repaired, remanufactured, and dealt with. Another example is, I'm coming to that, additive manufacturing. Here, this is a student project where we have set up a cube factory of a Learnstrument. What it essentially is a 3D printing, and 3D printing with the energy that we get from solar collectors. And we did it as a student project, and we now try to think of remanufacturing with producing little small parts. I'm going to show you the BMW parts that could be done as spare parts with such a type of equipment. But before going to that, here is an example. This is a litter box of the BSR Berlin Cleaning Association. And we tried to integrate a 3D printing unit of to produce parts from plastics out of a litter box directly as a demonstration type of approach. Another element of these increasing the teaching and learning productivity is mobile learning factories. Here we are going around in Mexico and in the Arabian countries with partnered universities and checking the power curve of a windmill. This equipment is to be put in a suitcase and set up in very short time, and it is of course of highest interest for students to deal with such type of equipment because it means adventure combined with teaching and learning activities. Another element is the Solar Manager game. Here we have games with different modules, and here we have concepts and learning aims dealt with such a type of approach. All these things we call Learnstruments, proving their functionality to the learner very, very fast to increase the teaching and learning productivity. Now the bicycle issue is of highest issue. For us, it's an exemplary issue. In the university in Vietnam, we are going to set up a bicycle activity. There is a company already exporting bamboo bikes to the US in Vietnam, and from that point we have a nice connection. Here you see a lot of different approaches, all prototypes made in our institutes with types of equipment. Navarro means nachwachsende Rohstoffe in German, that means new renewable resources. So prototypically addressing these issues. Smart Urban Wheeler is a similar design that we did with this. Here you can see also we checked whether we can generate electricity energy by pedal while standing, to combine it with a generator. I have to go faster. The Fab Lab, initiated by Massachusetts Institute of Technology, we are closely working with them with this network and addressing especially the sustainability issues. Now, the leverage of education activities from our institute, setting up a new university in Istanbul, setting up a new university in Vietnam, setting up an activity Jugend forscht. This is in Germany, a competition with young pupils, age 8 to age 18. And we have here a very international activity, global production engineering, where bachelors of non-European countries essentially are coming to us to make a master in global production engineering. So knowledge is the only resource expanded by utilization, and this is what we trust in and where we see our kernel competence as a university. This is the university in Vietnam. This is ideas on bicycle in Vietnam. This is the similar activities in Istanbul. Here, this is the opening of the university with the German president and the then Turkish president. And here is the activity where we are going every year. We are having a conference on sustainable manufacturing. Steve has been with us several times in different conferences. The next one will happen in September in Vietnam, and I also showed you already what it is addressing. This is another activity. We think of sustainable sanitation systems, again a student activity, sanitation without water, prototypical development, competition in our global conference on sustainable manufacturing, winner the Philippines, in a student project going in that direction. I have no time to go into details in that. Remanufacturing activities in emerging countries. Here, this is activities that were around the Malaysia conference last year. A lot of German companies are working with the Malaysians. Malaysia, close to Singapore, is addressing this issue of remanufacturing. Here you can see examples of that. Now I'd like to go to the additive manufacturing. I told you I have a little bit too many slides, but I did not know I must finish. Here is the chance of new technology, additive manufacturing. I have no time to go into details with that, to integrate this in the sustainability issue. And there are examples of that. Let me come to one, remanufacturing. This is already, you know, this type of car, not the newest one, but there is a feasibility study of how to go with spare part manufacturing by additive manufacturing. All right, this is my final 2 slides. You know, we have a lot of discussions on Christianity and Koran, and sustainability is already addressed in both in the Old Testament and in the Koran. Here are the citations of that, and I think this is perhaps an issue to deal with. We have had our conference in several Islamic countries, and we have a lot of students, Islamic students, and sustainability is an issue also from these religious relevance. And last not least, I'm coming from Hamburg. You know that this is Saxonia. Karlowitz, I started this idea of sustainability and forestry because of mines where there was a lot of wood used. And this is an idea of merchants, how to behave, how to work together with. Trading desires people by whom there is a sincerity in word and act. Give ear unto heart and mouth have to be the same. This is a free translation from German. Thank you for your attention.